Okay, so thanks to all of you for coming. As I think that the jargon is, these are unprecedented times, but it certainly is different. It is certainly very strange. And at Avpals, we thought maybe this was a chance to say, look again at your digital legacy, because while we have the opportunity, while we are self-isolating, and possibly it's time to organise your digital assets. And certainly, I think the blue bin has been receiving a lot of paper. Kimbricki Tick has been having queues as we all try to sort of sort out a few things that we keep meaning to get around to. So today's a cut down version of a talk I've been giving and updating over a number of years, and it started, and some of you I recognise from having come to the talks I've given, but it started, for those of you that don't know, about 3 years ago I think it was, I heard a radio interview, and the woman rang up to say that a member of her family had died. He was in his 30s, he didn't have a will, and a year later they still didn't know who he banked with because he did everything online. So that got me thinking, and the term digital legacy wasn't really much used, and the term digital assets I didn't really see. Interestingly, now you can go online and you can certainly find information and support. It is now people are far more aware of it. One problem is, of course, that the legal system hasn't caught up with it. So that's one issue that has yet to be addressed. Now, you must realise I'm not a lawyer.
Sorry, but I'm getting no sound.
Sorry. So who is that? Who spoke then, please? I'll continue. Okay, so I'm not a lawyer. I'm a retired high school teacher.
Not working.
And so the information that I have is information that I've tried to find online and elsewhere by talking to people.
Sound.
Jim, can you do anything about that person? You're mute, Jim. I can't hear you.
Sorry, Sue, just keep going.
Okay, I'll keep going. Right. Okay, so as I said, I'm not a lawyer, and basically it is an area of great uncertainty, and it is managed best by legal advice. Usually you can ask around, and you may have friends or family who can recommend someone. Elder law is the technical term for their specialisation. And if you don't know anyone, you can ring the Law Society. They will give you 3 names, and you can check amongst those. Okay, so basically we're talking about digital legacy, and the access to the internet has changed many aspects of our lives. It's also changed the ways in which we need to think about preparing for death as well. So the first thing is, what are digital assets? That's the question. What is it? It's a new term to us. We're sort of used to the shoebox that we put things in, but what are digital assets? So digital assets can be described as digital information that is available about a person. Any website or blog listings about the person. Social media profiles, photos, videos, gaming profiles. They are all classed as digital assets. So basically you need to think, well, do you send emails? Do you take photos with your phone or your digital camera? Have you written a family history? Do you use online banking? Do you subscribe to newspapers and read them online? Do you use direct debit for various services? And if you say yes to any of those, well, you've got digital assets. So it's something that you need to think about. Of course, you don't need to. I suppose the thing is, you can just ignore it. I gave this talk a couple of years ago, and at the end of it, a man came up to me and said, this is too much, I'm going home, I don't want to know anything about it. I thought, well, okay, that's his decision. But have you talked about death and dying? I know families, sometimes the younger members are a bit reluctant to talk about things like that. but it is something to consider. So are your affairs organised? The will, authorisation for power of attorney, enduring power of attorney, enduring guardianship, advanced care directives. So those are some of the nuts and bolts of getting sorted, because you can then go off and prepare to enjoy your life again. But they are things to consider. And of course, so I'm just checking. I'm sure you are all completely organised and you don't have to worry about any of this. But I'm assuming you have an up-to-date will prepared by a solicitor familiar with elder law. I'm assuming that you have gathered up the key documents and made a list of them so they can be easily located. What I've been doing, and I think a lot of people have been doing, is you've obviously got to have, you know, originals for various things, but it is something to consider that you can actually scan them and have a digital copy of them as well. Now, you don't necessarily need a scanner, because there are apps now for your phone, for your iPad, and it's better than using a camera in the sense of taking a photo, because a photo of a document is quite a big file. But if you get one of the scanning apps, it can prepare it as a PDF, which is a sort of a different format. So what I've been doing is scanning the document. So I've got the originals, but in a folder, I've sort of got a folder of personal documents. So a scanned version of the will and things like that. So it's something to consider, but you've got to make sure these things can be easily located. And how long is it since you've reviewed the key documents? I went online and had a look, and they say every 5 years, you really should review essential documents every 5 years. They may be all right, but things may have changed. People may have been added to the family, or may have left the family. So those are issues about documents. Now, okay, so you may have done all that. You may be sitting there feeling very smug because you checked everything out, everything's fine. But does anyone know about your digital assets and your plans for them? So have they be included in your checking through things? And your digital assets may include digitized documents, digital photos. And what you might have done, if you're like me, you've got from the olden days, you have photo albums. I've been going through the photo albums. It's amazing how many sunsets all look the same. And I've been starting to digitize family photos. And then, of course, the idea is, okay, I've got them digitized. What do you do with them? Who is responsible for them? So digital photos may also be photos from old historic family photos. Videos, you may have videos of family videos. Music collections. I mean, young people now, from what I gather, they don't buy CDs. They pay to rent them from Spotify or something like that. But I know we've got a lot of CDs and we've loaded them onto laptops to play them, but they are ours. Whereas, of course, anything you buy in iTunes, you're renting. So they can't be transferred. But if you've got a collection of music CDs that you've got to your computer, they could be transferred to someone. Someone else could enjoy your music. And blogs, travel stories. So these are digital assets. And also email accounts. I mean, some people have more than one email address. I've got a second one, which I call miscellaneous something or other at Gmail. And you know, when sometimes people ask for your email address, well, I like to give them that one rather than my general personal email address. So you may have digital assets that include your email accounts. Software licenses. People pay to buy software and they have a license for that software. So does anyone know that you are licensed for a copy of Office 2016? Because, yeah, that's serious money. And Adobe and whatever. So these are digital assets, your software licenses. Ebooks, you may have bought books. And of course, cloud storage accounts where you have got a backup of your information and your data. You may have financial assets such as online bank accounts. You may do online banking. You may have an online purchasing account such as PayPal. I found PayPal really handy. And increasingly, if you buy something online, you can pay for it through PayPal. And the reason I like PayPal is because it then is easy to find. When I'm checking my bank statement, trying to work out what something is, PayPal has a list of all my purchases. So I use PayPal, and that of course is one of my digital assets. And then there's cryptocurrency, which I know nothing about, but I've heard of it. And I've also heard of the guy who started it, or started one account. Bitcoin might be his, I'm not sure. You can see my ignorance on this matter, but it is a form of investment and people do use it. And this guy was very conscious of security because, of course, the cryptocurrency was millions of dollars. So he had very great security for it. But unfortunately, he died, supposedly, and he didn't share his password or inform anyone as to where his password was. I went online yesterday trying to find out what's happened to him. There was some suspicion that he'd done a runner and he was somewhere with all this money, or else all this money was just locked up and people could not access their cryptocurrency investment. So that's another financial asset. So if someone has cryptocurrency, they need to make it evident to someone how they can then access that money if they have died. And of course, you've got your online accounts, like if you're buying or selling through eBay, David Jones, Amazon, Spotify. And of course, if you have a business, you have customer orders, you have addresses, you have personal information, you have payment information. So they are your digital assets. And of course, social network accounts like Facebook, RSVP for dating, sharing files, Dropbox, and your computer access accounts. If you have a Windows 10 machine, you have a Microsoft account. If you have an Apple computer, you have an Apple account. If you have a Gmail address, you have a Gmail account. So these are all things, these are all digital assets. You may also do banking, so booking accommodation. But you might have a booking.com account. You may have a stays account if you've booked accommodation. There are frequent flyer points accounts. You may do some online betting, sports gambling, or online gaming. People playing games online have accounts. So these are digital assets. And of course, then you have these digital assets are stored somewhere. They may be stored on a laptop, on a tablet or an iPad, on a smartphone, digital camera, on an e-reader. And then of course you have other devices. You may have a printer, you may have a Fitbit. You know, these are other devices that you have which are part of your list of digital assets. So basically it's a case of sitting down with a cup of tea or a drink or whatever and thinking, how do you use the internet? So do you use it for email communication? And do you have more than one address? Some people, if they're with, say, Telstra, they have a Telstra email address and then they may use Gmail. So they have at least 2 addresses. I'm with TPG. I use Gmail, but I know there is a TPG email address because when you are with a provider, they give you an email address. Do you use it to store images, documents, videos? Do you use OneDrive, iCloud, Google Photos? What about face-to-face communication? Skype, FaceTime, Zoom. So these are digital assets. And file sharing, Google Docs, Dropbox, iCloud, and reading ebooks. So it's a case of thinking, how do you actually use the internet? You might say, oh, I don't use it very much. But then there might be something, oh yeah, but I do that. And oh yes, I do get a newsletter from Sydney Morning Herald or the Travel Bureau, some travel company. Oh yes, I have got Qantas frequent flyer points. So it's just a case of just thinking, what are the ways in which you somehow at times use the internet? So do you book accommodation? And really, when you think of it, people who don't use the internet are financially disadvantaged, aren't they? Because it's usually a surcharge. But if you use the internet, do you book accommodation? Do you do your banking? Do you buy and sell? Do you pay bills? Do you watch movies or television? So I may be labouring the point here, but it's a case of just thinking, how do you use your computer? So Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, online dating, Google, Bing, listening to podcasts and playing games. So just think how you use the internet. And of course, you have online accounts if you receive your gas, electricity, water, phone bills, etc. via email. If you buy items, if you sell through Gumtree, and if you pay for items with PayPal, you've got online accounts. And then we move to the next thing. So you communicate using Skype and FaceTime. You communicate using Facebook. You buy books, and you may, I don't know, you may invest in Bitcoin or cryptocurrency. So if you do all these things, you have passwords. I mean, everyone loves passwords. Now, do you know your passwords? This is one thing, because we have been de-skilled. Windows 10 has an option to save your password. Don't allow it to save your passwords. And I'm sure Apple has one as well, how you save your passwords. It de-skills us because we then forget passwords. It's a bit like with my phone. I don't know my family's phone number now because I just go into contacts. I am de-skilled. And it is a concern because we do forget our passwords. But the solution is not to have the same password for every account. That is dangerous. It is very unwise. I suspect a lot of people do it, but it's not wise, because if someone then can somehow get into your account, say for your email, they can get into everything. I remember this happened a few years ago, and I got an email from a friend telling me she was in London and she had lost her wallet and she had no money, and could I perhaps send her some money? Fortunately, I'd seen her in Avalon that morning, so I knew it wasn't her, but someone had got into her email. And at the time, she did use her same password for other things. So she had a real problem because this person then had access to, if they wanted to finding out what other accounts they could use. So it's a bad idea to use the same password. One suggestion, which actually was sent through from ASCA, the Australian Seniors Computers Clubs Association recently, was if you have for your password a root word or phrase which uses symbols, plus you have a unique suffix or ending to it. So you could do something like this: Barrenjoey House. That could be basic word, and then you can use the @ for the A, you can use the zeros for the O, you can use the $ for the S, and then you just add at the end of it GM. So your Gmail password could be that Barrenjoey House GM. Your Skype one could be that and Skype. I mean, you could use the street that you grew up in and have that as your root word, and then you just add TE for Telstra, OP for Optus, DJ for David Jones. You've got a chance of remembering what your password is if you know what the basic root is. But it is something to be aware of. I know it's a bore to change passwords, but perhaps you could consider, if you are using about the same basic password for everything, to over time just change them over to something which is more difficult for people to get into. I mean, people are very clever these days, and hacking is, you know, something they are very skilled at, but you might make it less easy for them if you took the time to just make your password a little more challenging. But of course, if you do that, where are you storing your password? Because it's not good enough to have it in your head. And I know at the time, it's a bit like file names. They're very logical when you make them and when you save something, but later on, you can't remember them. So where do you store your passwords? Are they in a notebook somewhere? Are they in an alphabetical book? Are they a table in a word processing document? Are they in a spreadsheet? Do you use password manager software? A lot of people do. It's software which is a bit like a bank vault. You have to have a very, very complex password to get into the bank vault. But in the bank vault are all the passwords for your various accounts, and all you need to know is the complex password to get into the password manager bank vault. So that's what some people use. But of course, who knows how to access your passwords if necessary? So that's the other thing. It's all very well if you would have worked out a system. I was told recently of someone who went out and he bought himself, I think it was an iPad and an iPhone, brand new, set them all up, and tragically he died. And he didn't tell anyone, he hadn't recorded his password. So from what I haven't heard the update, his iPhone and his iPad were inaccessible. No one could get into them because, you know, Apple are very proud of their security. And so this perfectly good new iPhone and an iPad, I think it was, were, at last thing I heard, useless because no one could get into them. So you need to work out and decide that someone has to have access to your passwords if necessary. I remember earlier this year at Avalon Computer Pals, one of the other people there having a lesson was her husband had sadly died, but he had the password to their Skype account, and she couldn't work out, they couldn't get into it. We didn't know what to do because he hadn't shared with her or anyone what his password was. So basically you have to make some decisions. What do you want to happen to your documents, your photos, your music, your videos, your accounts? These are your digital assets. So do you want them to be transferred to someone else? I mean, the family photos, what do you want to happen to them? Or do you just want everything to be deleted or cancelled? Now, cancelling accounts such as Microsoft, Apple, Google, Facebook, Hotmail, Skype, there are complications with that because of the various things that you use your Microsoft ID for or your Apple ID. So, for example, your Microsoft account allows you access to OneDrive, Skype, the App Store, and Cloud Backup, which might be fine, but you don't really want your executor to cancel that account until any information, say the data in OneDrive, is that being distributed to the relevant people? So you have to be careful about what you do here. With Skype, if it's a family, if your partner uses Skype, so that person needs to be able to still use the Skype account. If the two of you have used the Skype account, and the cloud backup. So these are things you need to consider because the Microsoft account has links to those. And basically, from what I found out, is if your executor would have to, once they've decided what to do with it, they need to either access the account or emails from a deceased or incapacitated person's account, or request the closure of the account. So this is something that has to be done ultimately. With your Apple ID, that's needed for the online store, Apple Music, iPhotos, FaceTime, iCloud, iMessage, iTunes. So again, a decision has to be made about what you do about having the ID cancelled. Apparently, when Apple ID is cancelled, all those things are deleted permanently. So, any photos, videos, any content stored in iCloud, gone. There'll be no messages now will be received via iMessage, FaceTime, or iCloud Mail. Gone. And any storage plans, gone. Apple says to close an account, they need the Apple ID, of course, the email address, the password for the email address, and a death certificate. And then they'll close the account. With a Google account, and if you have a Gmail address, you have a Google account. And that's where people save data in Google Drive, Google Photos. A lot of people use Google Photos because it's free. So people have hundreds and hundreds of photos there. What do you want done with those? Because if your Gmail account is closed, they're gone. Google Docs and Google YouTube. You can decide what should be done with your data afterwards and whether the data can be shared with someone you trust or can be deleted. So if you go into your Google account, you'll see this. They call it an inactive account manager. And it says you can make a plan for your Google account if you pass away or stop using Google. So you go into your settings in your Gmail and you'll find this. And An executor can go into your Gmail and submit a request regarding a deceased user's account. So this is all information. If you have a Gmail account, you can go in and you can find this and see it says the executor can close the account of a deceased user, submit a request for funds from a deceased user account, or obtain data from a deceased user's account. Email, sometimes email messages. When you think of it now, we don't have letters. People don't write letters. So if you're writing a family history of someone, are there any email messages that are relevant to a person's history when they say if they sent emails during a trip they've been on? So maybe emails have a life beyond the person, but you have to make decisions on that. Now, Facebook, and this is why I've been mentioning all these. People, identity theft, as you know, is a very real thing, especially Facebook. They're targeting the Facebook accounts of dead people. They impersonate the dead person. They trick family into friends into clicking into, say, a link. I want to share this link with you. And then they can be ransomware type links. So you have to be careful about this. So for Facebook, you can select a legacy contact who manages your Facebook account. So if you have a Facebook account and you want to be memorialized, you want the Facebook page to stay there with your family photos and your history, you can have a person to manage a legacy account. This again is under the Facebook information. I don't know how easy that is for you to see. I'm sorry that the text, the color of the font they used was very faint. But you can choose someone to look after your account after you pass away, and they can manage who sees or posts tributes to you. Well, there you go. Or delete tribute posts if you're not that fussed about them. But anyway, this is something that can be done with your Facebook account if you have one. And that information is all available for you. And you can either have your account permanently deleted or deactivated. I mean, if you don't really want people adding stuff to it after you've died, well, if you don't care, it doesn't matter, but you may want to just delete it. And this is something that Facebook gives the executor the opportunity to do, or you may wish to do. You may see think you've had enough of Facebook. And there is a form that your executor can do if a person has died, or if it's a guardianship, if the person is medically incapacitated, they can request the removal of the form. So those things are now, I mean, 2 or 3 years ago, I couldn't find information like this, but now they're moving a bit with the time. So you can manage things. There's also a website called Avpals. It's a commercial website, but I found it quite helpful because it has a whole lot of things such as how to close online accounts and services when someone dies. So it's called everplans.com. You can find it online, and there is information there for the various accounts. So it's something to be aware of. So basically, what do you want to happen to your devices? Do you want them recycled? Do you want them given to a specific person with or without data? Or do you want them donated with data removed? I've been trying to look to see, because I hate when you go up to Kimbrickie Tip, you can see all the technology there in the storage area there. I've been trying to find out whether there is somewhere where you can, like a men's shed, where they fix up technology, because maybe years ago we oldies only had handoffs from the family, but we're now buying good stuff, and maybe your family don't want your iPhone because they've got their own and they've got a more modern one than yours. But it'd be nice. I watched that Filthy Rich and Homeless this week, and it was heartbreaking to see these young people, and well, of all ages really. And I'm going to keep looking to see whether, say there's a refuge I know in near the Baha'i Temple, whether technology could be given to them for the kids there to use, or just homeless people. So I will keep looking to find out, but it just seems to me there is an opportunity there to give stuff to people who have a greater need for it. So basically, to sum up, have you made sure someone other than you knows how to access your digitally stored content and your online accounts? Is that person your partner, your children, your friend, your executor? So, organising your affairs now includes appointing a digital executor. It can be your executor, but if that person's not too comfortable with technology, maybe you need to think of adding someone who can do the stuff with your devices and your data. Your digital executor needs information on how to access relevant passwords and secret questions, information on your digital assets, and what is to be done with your data and devices. So basically, that's just trying to make people think about what they need to do. This piece of paper is in a book provided by the Legal Aid Society, and I thought it was quite a handy thing because it is quite a good summation of information. Maybe it's something you might consider putting in your wallet or in your bag. That's something, and it comes from this book here, Legal Topics for Older People, Diary 2020. We've got a stack of them at the Newport facility. If we open up, some of you may be interested in grabbing one from there. It is a diary, but it also has a lot of legal information. So anyway, that's basically it. I'll stop sharing my screen now, and thank you very much. Any questions?
Right, I'll just unmute you all. If you would be, if you want to raise a question, just raise your hand, and I'm sure Sue would be more than happy to answer it.
Yes, Jan. Jan, you had your hand up first.
Not a question, Sue, but a comment.
Yep.
Some years ago, Coorabell Hospital at Royal Ride were accepting used computers.
Were they?
And they had volunteers who set them up for people who needed them.
Coorabell.
Coorabell, C-O-O-R-A-B-E-L. It's a rehabilitation hospital.
Thank you so much, Jan. I'll ring them.
Okay.
Yep, excellent. Thank you. Paul, you had a question or comment.
It's a comment more than anything else. I had a friend of mine who passed away some time ago unexpectedly, and he had more than 1 million Qantas frequent flyer points. It's very important that the people that you are leaving behind know your Qantas frequent flyer login details, because they can transfer those points to their own account in one hit. And if otherwise, they're lost forever.
Excellent. I will add that now to my presentation for next time we do it in face-to-face. Any other questions? Oh, yes. Elsa, yes. Elsa?
Is this all available? Thank you very much. Very interesting. Can I download this as a document, what you said today? Is that available?
What I will do, it is a PowerPoint presentation. Now, can I, that can go up, Paul, can it, as it is?
Thank you, Sue. If you wouldn't mind just sending it to me, I convert it and it will be up then. It can't be altered then. If you send that to me in the next 15 minutes, it will be up on the website before 4 p.m. today.
Right, will do.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions?
Ron had a question.
Yep, not a question, a comment. This morning I did an ASCA seminar. I just want to congratulate Avpals on what a great job you're doing. The ASCA seminar, the content, the presenter, everything was great, but the control of the meeting was unbelievable and embarrassing. And to think this was the head body of our organisation, just absolutely shocking. I won't go into it, but congratulations, Avpals.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ron.
Thank you. Yes.
More questions?
No?
I might just make one comment, Sue. You did mention password managers. I would commend people who have lots of passwords to think about using one. I have so many accounts now, and the ones for my wife as well, that I have to remember. I have totally given up trying to do it on a systematic system, and I've resorted to a password manager. And it makes life so much easier.
Yeah. Which one do you use, Jim?
I use the one that comes with Norton, because I have Norton securities for my protection. But there are a number of other ones, and it does make life easier. And it's much easier to hand over to your digital executor the access to that password manager, and you'll have a head start, or she will have a head start in sorting your affairs out.
Good point. Yeah.
Any more questions or comments? Well, thank you very much, Sue. That was an enlightening presentation. This is the first time I've actually got to hear it, because usually I'm teaching in the other room. So it was very interesting to me.
Good.
I'm sure everyone else found it equally interesting, even if they'd heard it before. There's always something new. Now, at this stage, I'd like to hand over to Paul, who will be doing next week's presentation to say a little bit about what he's doing.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you, Sue.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm talking about something that would either be of interest to you or not. It's about a bit of a narrow subject. It's a program that is very dear to my heart called Avpals View. It's available for Windows and also for Mac if you know what you're doing, but particularly for Windows. It's free, it's tiny, and it is by far the best image manipulation program there is. It's been around for 20 odd years. It has no viruses or spam. They don't even want to know your email address. And yet it can do the most amazing things with an image. And I'm going to try and spend 30 minutes showing you its speed. I hope you will join me. If you want to do so, you can either give Peter Marshall a ring on 8064-3574, or you can sign up online at avpals.com.
Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Well, thank you everyone for attending. And Ron, it's not just that Avpals do a great job, it's that our users are very well disciplined and stand up when they want to speak.
Well, you hit the nail on the head, Jim, as to what the problem was.
Oh, Helen has a question, or?
Sorry, I wanted to ask Annette if she intended doing at one time a course on that dictating into Google and writing your memoirs.
I think, Jim, you were proposing to do a much more centered talk on exactly that, were you not?
I'm thinking about it, and let's work out something to do. If there is interest in doing it, I'm sure we can work something out.
Well, I'd be very interested.
And Sue?
Oh yes, I was just thinking, as we get older, it may be